Well, we're going to have kind of a gradual start because, you know, on the first day of class, people may filter in a bit late. So I want to welcome all of you to Technology and the Future of Medicine. And this is going to be a kind of detailed description of the course and its requirements and what's due when and all that sort of stuff to make sure that you get all that information right from the beginning. But before we do that, we're going to talk about 23andMe. You've already seen, or some of you have seen a video about it. So Ross Lockwood, who is also lecturing on October 1st and 3rd, is now going to tell you a little bit about 23andMe.
Hi, everybody. So 23andMe is a company in the States that was founded by Linda Avey and Anna Wojcicki. Basically what it is they will take a cheek swab and do genetic analysis on it. So it's not the same as gene sequencing, it's more of just standard genetic testing. And it looks at a bunch of stuff. So they want to be able to tell you about your carrier status of inheritable genetic diseases, the health risk associated with that, and the drug response. But there's some cool things that 23andMe does as well. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So they actually test 240 genetically controlled conditions and traits, and they'll give you a breakdown of your ancestral composition, your DNA relatives, and if you and your family members also do this test, they'll tell you a little bit about your family tree as well. So I've contacted 23andMe, and I've asked them for a promotional academic discount for students. And if you would like to participate, you're more than welcome to it. This is a non-mandatory part of the course. You can volunteer, or you can participate voluntarily. It'll be completely anonymous, so your results are not going to be shared with anybody but you, and unless, of course, you want to share that data with the course. I estimate that they'll be giving us a 20% discount off the $99 price tag. And if you are interested, I'm going to have a couple of these sheets floating around. You can just add your name and email address, and we can go from there. Some of the things that interest me for 23andMe, they'll tell you what your preponderance or your caffeine response is to a cup of coffee. They'll tell you whether you're one of these people whose urine stinks because of asparagus. They'll tell you whether you're allergic to cilantro, and then all these other things. So they do a lot of stuff. The website is 23andme.com, and if you're interested, just sign up here. So I'll collect your email address. I'm going to give it to the academic advisor at 23andMe, and they will contact you directly with a discount code. So I only see your email address and name.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. So the objectives for this lecture. We are going to outline the basic plan for the course, its expectations, due dates, evaluation criteria, and feedback mechanisms. You may know that, all of our videos from the previous semesters are on YouTube, and I've never given this kind of detail before. So you're going to be much more informed about the course than any previous students have been. And we'll begin to introduce the basic concepts of the course, including the technological singularity, exponential change, and existential risk. Outline procedures for the student presentation evenings, November 5th and December 3rd. If any of you have conflicts on those evenings, please let me know. This is something that's quite a lot of fun, mixing social events and food and drink with student presentations. The reason that we do that is so that the presentations don't eat up too much of the regular class time. But if any of you have things that you can't get out of that are already occurring on those evenings, please let me know. And then to outline the expectations for the paper that is a critique of a past lecture. You can do this either from the PowerPoint or from the video of that previous lecture. Let us know what the strengths, the weaknesses are. How could we have improved that lecture? How could we make that lecture better as a part of the course? If you want to critique more than one lecture, that's okay. If you want to try to critique the whole course or something, what we're interested in is, first of all, getting some written content from you fairly early in the course, so we're not waiting to the very end to get anything at all from you, and also to use it as a way to improve the course. So anyway, that's the deal. Welcome, come on in. That should be 600 to 1,000 words, and that's due on October 15th. Your mentor and topic selection should be on November 14th. It can obviously be a lot sooner, but by that date, you need to let me know which of the faculty members you're choosing as your faculty mentor and what the topic for your final paper and presentation will be. How much should you use the mentor? That's entirely up to you. It is, it's possible that you're so confident that you just want to check in with this person and say, look, this is what I'm doing, and that's it. Or you may say, I really need help. And the whole spectrum from this is what I'm doing to I really need help is perfectly fine. And so that's you do have to let me know the topic. It does have to fit in with the course. It can't just be technology and medicine if it doesn't have anything to do with, existential risk, with exponential change, the technological singularity, job loss through us being replaced by robots, all the cool things we talk about in this course. It'd be possible to give a presentation about technology and medicine that did not contain any of those things, and that would not be a satisfactory performance. The presentations, the discussions in the course are quite engaging, and I think you'll find it a lot of fun, so that in a sense, you can choose your own area to focus on and really work very hard only on that area. But I think you will quickly find that you want to be a part of each and every teaching presentation and the subsequent discussion. So you'll end up learning at least a little bit about every single subject that we teach here. The final paper is due November 26th, and you have a choice of whether to present your presentation on November 5th or December 3rd. So you'll all be presenting on one of those dates or the other. Those evenings, we try to make them relaxed and fun, so even if it's the first time you've ever given a presentation like this, it's not too bad, because the other things are sort of fun. Okay, each 80-minute class period on Tuesdays and Thursdays is divided more or less into usually 10-minute intro by me, and then 50 minutes by the other lecturer, and 20 minutes whole class discussion. Each student will take on a special project or special area with the guidance of the faculty and present the results of their research in that area in the final paper and presentation. So I think I've already gone through this. November 5th, December 3rd. The evaluation, you may think it's kind of overkill if you look at the course description. we give for every assignment the breakdown of like how much for this and how much for that. But that's just so you know how we'll be grading the papers, how we'll be grading the presentations. So the final presentation is worth 30%, the final paper is worth 40%. The critique that is going to be due on October 15th is worth 20%, and class participation is 10%. The question of what a shy student, we haven't had very many really shy students, but we want to be prepared in case we ever do. So if you think you fall into that category, we have an online forum that nobody has ever used, but it's been there for 2 years. So if you self-identify as a shy student, we'll bring that online forum to life. And so you can go in there and loom big and large on the online forum if you don't feel comfortable looming big and large using the microphone in this room. But I think one of the advantages of taking the course is any leadership thing you ever might want to do in life, you probably need to know how to speak confidently into a microphone, and you'll get to do that in this course, because you can't ask questions unless you do that, because every part of the course is a part of the course videos. So in the past, we have had inappropriate subjects chosen for the final paper. That's why I'm giving such great detail here. So the subject you choose must be related to the subject matter of the course. Things like the singularity, artificial intelligence, nanotech, genomics, replacement of human labor by machines, existential risk, and medical ethics of the future. We talk a lot about the technological singularity, so this won't be the last time you see this slide, but I thought it's good to at least get you thinking about it in the first lecture. So it's defined as the point where machines become as smart or smarter than we are and begin to control the agenda of the world, and we can only then figure out what's going on if we collaborate or merge with them in some way. And they can also evolve or self-improve much more quickly than we can. So it's not just that they become as smart or a little bit smarter than we are, but one presumes that they will then very quickly be able to become much, much smarter than we are. And so it brings to mind the idea of human insignificance. Maybe that's something you never thought about before. But as you walk to class, if you saw a grasshopper or an ant, think of how you felt about that grasshopper or ant. You probably didn't feel particularly positively or negatively. You just didn't care because your activities are a whole different level. And machines may eventually feel that way about us, that we just aren't able to keep up intellectually with all the cool stuff that they're doing. And so also human identity at that point, if a human being begins a project or an idea and the machines augment it and make it much bigger, in the end, will it really matter what the name of the human being that started it was? It might not. So this kind of assignment of human being names to projects and ideas might be less frequent in the foreseeable future. So I think up until February of 2011, one could argue that the average human being in our society could exist quite easily without knowing anything about the technological singularity. But that month, two things happened. First of all, the singularity appeared on the cover of Time magazine. 2045, the year man becomes immortal. So that's all about the projected time at which machines will surpass us in intellect and the effect of that on human beings. And in the same month, a machine, Watson, beat the top human contenders at Jeopardy over 3 days, getting better and better over those 3 days. By the third day, it was clear that not only were they just able to beat, was Watson, the machine, just able to beat this particular human being, but he could now, or she could now clearly surpass any human being. That from that moment, machines were better at the game of Jeopardy than human beings, just as they now are in chess and checkers and lots of other things. This course came out of 2 very valuable focus group discussions that we had in May of 2011. And a lot of the characteristics of the way we run the course are based on what the students at that time told me. We did one focus group for the undergraduates and one for the graduate students. And for instance, making this completely open to the public and to all faculties was something that those students suggested. Not protecting you from the uncomfortable truth is also something that I said, well, do you think, like you always make selections when you're deciding what to teach students, and should I balance it so there's more positive, happy stuff than the scary, negative stuff? And they said, no, Dr. Solez, we want you to the best of your ability to tell us everything. Don't hold back. So if you find us doing that, that's because that's what the students said they wanted. And over time, the sessions have developed a kind of pedagogical rhythm leading to a self-organized structure that, as I say, is usually the 10-minute intro, the 50-minute lecture, and the 20-minute discussion. There are some exceptions to that. Some of them are quite wonderful and going to occur very soon. So Shauna Pandya, who's about your age, most of you, if you were to do the aggregate age of you sitting in the seat, she's about your age. At the age of 4, she decided that she wanted to be an astronaut, wanted to go into space, wanted to be a brain surgeon. I suppose most 4-year-olds don't really know what they want, but the ones who choose things like that never, ever, ever succeed in reaching their goals. But she's actually reached both of those goals. She spent one of her birthdays in a weightless environment up there in the sky, and she's been to International Space University, to Singularity University, as I also have. She formed her own company, and she's done a lot of awesome things, and she's currently a neurosurgery resident. So she's a doctor training in neurosurgery, just like at the age of 4 she said that she wanted to do. So we have a lot of really, she gives a workshop, an entrepreneurship workshop, that is obviously different from an ordinary lecture. It also, ideally, we need more people for that, and we can have anybody, but if it really is a potentially not only life-changing experience, but in a way that you might make money. It'll teach you how to create a new company and become the next billionaire, So it's worth doing. So if you would like to think of friends and associates, other people that you know who would be interested in this kind of workshop, it's probably better if they're not shy, because the other thing about Shauna's 2 teaching sessions on the 17th and the 19th of this month is you'll all get to know each other very well, because she asks you to talk to each other in various ways, and part of the interaction is very good for the cohesion of the class. Suddenly you'll sort of feel like you're a unit rather than just feeling like one person against the world, you know. Suddenly you'll feel like you're part of the rest of this group. You may wonder about this camera and the students. So you'll hardly ever see anybody taking still pictures of what goes on here, and yet we end up with a lot of pictures, sometimes over 100, from each teaching session. And that comes from this camera. It's a video camera, but it also has a software algorithm of smiles and hand gestures and things. And when it sees something that looks to it, based on the software, like an ideal picture, then it takes a still picture. Now, if you have a really crabby person with no smiles and whose arm gestures are really boring, then it might take no pictures or one. But if you have a really animated person who smiles a lot and a lot of cool stuff happening, then it takes a large number of pictures. And that's quite interesting. It's always a kind of accidental discovery for me after each teaching session to see what the still pictures look like. And if you look at this picture here with Osmer Zayan with his hands over his head like that, and imagine you as a photographer trying to get a picture like that. It'd be hard, you know. It's not comfortable to hold your hands like that. It's kind of a momentary thing. But a machine can take pictures like that very well when it knows what it's looking for. And so that's one of the fun parts of the course, is to compare the pictures that this particular machine takes without any human assistance with what you think a human being. There are actually quite a few people in the room with strong interest in photography. So this question of whether machines or human beings are better is of some interest, and we'll talk about that a lot. We began in very uncomfortable surroundings. In the room where we started this course, the air handling was louder than any of the speakers, and the temperature wasn't very well maintained, and the lighting was lousy, and everything was really unsatisfactory. This room, from a technology point of view, is just fantastic in terms of the things that it allows us to do. So you may wonder why so few people are in such a big room, but that's the reason. There's nowhere else in the university that we can get the technological bells and whistles to work like we can in this room. So that's the reason that we do the course in this room. So the videos have hot linked table of contents. What does that mean? It means that your life is short. You know, you don't want to watch an entire 80-minute video just on the hope of finding something interesting. But we have very detailed tables of contents, and then each of those points is hot linked, so you can go right to the 1-minute segment or 30-second segment that's of special interest to you and watch the videos from the course in a very targeted way. And that's then valuable for us because we look at the YouTube statistics of the audience retention peaks, and the parts of the video that people go back and watch a lot give us very recognizable peaks, and that tells us what are the most interesting parts of the lecture. So that's very valuable to us. We have a very diverse faculty. When Heather Graves started teaching in this course, I think she thought she was in here by accident. It was kind of fun, but she thought we'd never, ever ask her back, and we did. She's a highly effective part of the course. She's from the Department of English and Film Studies in the Faculty of Arts. The Dean of Arts has spoken in this course, and I think that'll happen again in the winter of 2014. So we try to strike a real balance between different points of view, different ways of looking at things. One of our best lecturers, if not our best lecturer, is Jonathan White. And he's a fascinating guy. I can't explain to you all the reasons that he's so fascinating, but I think you'll sort of get it. If you watch his various lectures, you'd think, well, you know, it must be pretty much the same from semester to semester. Well, the last time he taught here, the opinions that he gave were almost exactly the opposite from this excellent video of his from November 2011. So over a year and a half, he completely reversed his thinking on most things. He thought that perhaps now he believes that this idea of the technological singularity is only a kind of marketing tool for rich people in California. You know, it's really stimulating to look at the way his thoughts have changed. And he's such an excellent teacher that you sort of become fascinated. You know, if his thoughts, if his opinions can change like that, what about your own? Maybe you also might change your ideas. Now, one of the interesting things that happened in this course, you may think everything in this course is on YouTube, but it's not. Some significant things aren't. So that first lecture, that's the main thing you see when you go to the website for the course, and there is Jonathan White's lecture. It begins sort of, you know, abruptly. You might say, well, why would somebody begin a lecture like that? Well, that's not the way he began that lecture. He began it with a song by Jonathan Colton called "The Future's Soon." But of course, he didn't own the rights to that song, and we can't put, I mean, we'd all go to jail if we put a song that somebody else owns the rights. So he was so shocked when I took it out. But anyway, more recently though, we've done our own song for this course, and with any luck, I'm gonna play that for you now. So let me just, and I want you to know that the video editing here was done by Angus Findlay, who's right there doing the videography. Here it comes, coming at you very soon.
I've got a half-life ticking and EKG readings that are beating the shore to dust. I've got a smartphone crystal ball, touch screen at all, but the screen won't touch. And it's this analog melody stuck in my head, and it's driving me insane, cause I got this chronic condition that'll suffer no remission, and I'm feeling that I ain't got time. Ooh yeah, yeah. Show me an android heart, an AI mind, and a spirit in the machine. Show me an optimistic and futuristic prognosis and what it means. Help me to see the future between the sutures. Will it be good or bad, or will we recognize a thing when we all pull the pin? Will it resemble what we had? It's a singularity. Yeah, it's a singularity. Beyond event horizon, will we wisen up or find a kind of glory? What's the story of the singularity?
What you hear is not a test, it's a singularity. A risk thing, isn't it? To envision it, or does the future look rather dissonant? Robots now, but what about later? Will it be like Terminator? Or are we headed for utopia? Well, follow me and I'll show ya.
Voices from every field across the world are coming to ya. Attend the class or watch from home, it's coming to ya. Kim Solez has the contacts and he's bringing them to ya. It's coming to ya, the future's coming to ya. So come to the future.
Technology and the future of medicine. LABMP 90. Point. Here it comes, coming at you very soon. Done. Stop that. Okay. It's always fun when you see me, who talks about technology so much, in a situation where technology has overwhelmed me completely. Yeah, so anyway, the pilgrimage. Now those of you who hang out on the Faculty of Medicine, that is as far from here as you can possibly get. So in order to get to this room, you have to take quite a trek. But they're often very cool people to take that walk with, and so if you end up doing that, that is working in the Faculty of Medicine and regularly coming here, well, thank you very much for that. You know that there's always parking out here. It's sort of an interesting thing, but those parking meters along Saskatchewan Drive are so expensive that nobody in their right mind would park there, and there's always space. So anyway, anytime you are contemplating coming here, you know you'll not have problems parking. So we endeavor to shoot broadcast quality video for each lecture and discussion. The previous lectures are on YouTube. There are some exceptions. The terrorism anthrax lecture is not on YouTube and will never be. We think it'd be sort of a training manual for bad guys, so we don't want to do that. So, and there's an occasional other lecture that's not on YouTube. Usually it means that I didn't like the lecture, which occasionally happens, and so that's kind of a clue that I wasn't that keen on the lecture. But most of them go on YouTube. The exact speed depends upon a lot of things, how busy Angus and I are, and whether I use the unedited video that he provides me or whether I do a lot of editing later. So those are some of the things that determine the speed with which the videos are uploaded. There's no required reading for the course. We have a kind of library tradition of me bringing books and loaning them to people. You don't have to do that, but I did bring 4 books today that you could borrow. These are books that we talk about in the course. They include The Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil, and a book about evil as a treatable disease, which there's a lecture about that in about a month. The book Robopocalypse, and the book Existence. I'll bring others in the future. My bringing the book doesn't mean you have to take it and read it, but if any of you are inclined to read any of these, you can really follow your own interests in this course. And so most courses have specific required content. We really don't. We have general required content like big overarching concepts, but there's no specific required content. So why do the undergraduates need to be interviewed by me? Well, this is one of the reasons, that you need to be mature enough to talk about the scary ethical things that we talk about. So far I haven't ever interviewed anybody I thought wasn't suitable for the course, but I know someday that I will, and I'm planning to be very tough with that theoretical person that I haven't met yet who's totally unsuited for this course. Yeah, anyway, that's the deal. The required the suggested reading list is very long, and obviously you don't need to do anything with that. Some of you have spent a lot of time over the summer reading some of those things, and that's also wonderful. I think you get out of this course sort of what you put into it, and I look upon, I mean, I have a general wish not only for all of you to do well in the course, but for all of you to do well in life, and for somehow for the course to have promoted you're doing well in life in general, you know? So that's kind of how I feel about things. So we talk about the singularity, AI, genomics, nanotech, ways to optimize a positive outcome for humanity in the co-evolution of humans and machines, the influence of these considerations on medicine of the future. The Dean of Science speaks, prominent people internationally, David Pierce. I guess I should tell you to prepare for David Pierce's lecture. It's one of the most fun parts of the course. It's something that when you contemplate it, it seems one way in your mind, and when you're actually here talking to him directly by Skype and looking him in the eye and debating this stuff, it seems entirely different. He holds the belief that we should get rid of all pain and suffering, not just unnecessary pain and suffering, but all pain and suffering. So like that would include the pain and suffering that you feel when you touch a hot stove, that when you break up a friendship and so on. It seems kind of impractical when we're just here talking about it, but when you have the man himself, this established famous philosopher arguing this, it becomes a very interesting thing. And so that teaching session, it's 90% you guys talking with him directly by Skype. So yeah, he has videos, he has lots of content you can watch beforehand, but that's your opportunity to talk directly with this famous philosopher and sort of debate this issue. And you can probably all remember a time in your life when you were quite young, when you probably believed exactly what he's saying, that life should all be about pleasure and no pain, and but at some point, the added complexity of human relationships and all the other things got factored in, and so you probably don't see that quite as simply as you did at some earlier point in your life. But I want to remind you that you'll sort of feel cheated if you don't look at any of his stuff and just show up at class, because you'll be less informed than the other students who are asking him questions. He's a very nice guy to talk to. And in that respect, you may wonder about Marcus Hutter. Marcus Hutter is maybe my one failure as political force in this class. When I first talked to Marcus Hutter, he was very deferential to me, very happy about the interest that I had. He's sort of the AI researcher with the most specific ideas about what the technological singularity will be like, what it will look like, what it will sound like, what it will feel like, what the visuals, the auditory, the whole thing. What is it going to be like? His first language is German. His English is pretty good. But we came to conflict over things like using video as him teaching in this course, or using video of him talking to you, the students. I had several such videos. He said, these cannot be seen anywhere. So this is not really working for me. We can't have anybody teaching in this course who doesn't want to be seen with you guys. That's not cool. So he is not actively teaching this term, but we have a sort of canned version of him. We have a PowerPoint with an audio track that he produced a year and a half ago. It is the intellectually most challenging thing you could possibly wrestle with. Jonathan Schaefer, the Dean of Science, had a look at it and thought it's one of the toughest intellectual challenges he's ever seen. On the one hand, every slide looks like it has a simple message. You can understand what the message is, but you can't possibly figure out how Marcus Hutter reached that conclusion. That's the tough part. And a lot of it's very scary. It deals a lot with characteristics of youth. You may think it's wonderful to be young, or you may know other people who think it's wonderful to be young, but you also know that youth has some uncertainty, and you know, there can be sort of things that are unpleasant about being young, and a lot of them will be in Marcus Hutter's vision of the future. Everything's like that, you know. Human beings don't count for anything, that you're insignificant beyond anything you could possibly imagine, and therefore you engage in extreme risk-taking, because if you get killed, you can be recreated from a backup, so it doesn't matter, you know, and there are other entities around much smarter than you are. So I'm not assigning you to necessarily watch that PowerPoint with audio, but you may be challenged by the fact that Jonathan Schaefer considers it so hard to understand, and that the guy who, you know, did it considers himself to be in a different sort of echelon of a human being status, where he doesn't want to be seen on camera with any of you. So that's the status of Marcus Hutter and this course. And I'm sorry that it turned out like that, but it's quite clear that that's the way it is. And what about the student numbers and the enrollment in this course? I'd one time thought it was a simple exponential, and you know, it would keep going up. So the first term we had 2, and then we had 5, and then we had 12, and I thought, well, maybe it'll go to 27, and then the course is maxed out at 40 and so on. But that would be a nightmare. The night that Angus and I, when we did this second student presentation evening, and it turned out that the worst performing students had chosen to be at the very end. Nothing has been more unpleasant than exhausted Kim Solez and exhausted Angus Finlay trying to cope with these terrible presentations. So that was when we only had 14 students. So it seemed to us that somewhere 12 to 14 is sort of ideal. And that can either be graded students or total number of people in the room if you count the students who are also here for other reasons. So I'm perfectly happy with the number that I see here, you know, today, and I really think that 12 is about the ideal number. That would mean that every single one of you who has a question or many, you'd get all of those answered in the period after the lecture, and you'd feel completely satisfied. You wouldn't feel that you listened for the entire period, had a question that you couldn't answer. And you wouldn't also feel that there's so darn many students that you don't want to watch the other student presentations, which I think is what would start to happen if we had more students in the course. So I don't plan for us to go up to 40. 40 is a theoretical maximum, but I don't think we'll actually reach it. If we did start to, then we'd have to sort of divide this into 2 different sections. As you know, the university has signed an MOU with Udacity that does online video teaching. And so we're going to try to experiment with some of the same techniques that they're using. Right at the moment, we're not doing any of this, of teaching with the graphics tablet with various, you know, transparency things. But we will try to do that in the future. It's maybe the one thing missing. Now, the problem of audience heterogeneity. Some of you already know a lot about the singularities. Some of you don't know anything about it, and this is your first exposure. So what do we do about that? Well, I think if we introduce the ideas in a novel enough way that it's good for all of you, for everybody, from those who have heard about these ideas a lot to those to who they are brand new. The most interesting aspects of many of the things that we talk about in this course are particular relevance to young people. And I am very proud of the fact that those teaching in this course, the faculty in the course, is getting younger and younger. I won't show you a graph, but it's really true. And particularly the people teaching in the early part of the course. Patrick Pilarski is just about your age, as is Shauna Panja, as is Ross Lockwood, who you've already heard from. And so there is, I think, a lot of advantage to hearing from people who are a similar age to you. We do not yet have faculty arriving by skateboard, but I predict that it will happen. Pierre, who has just left the room, is an AI graduate student. He'll be back. But I was so impressed that I went to a reading group in the AI, amongst the AI faculty, brought his skateboard with him, which I think is a real sort of merging together of kind of youth culture outside the university and inside the university. Lin Wang, who is teaching in the course at the end of October, is also similar age to you guys, and is a real media professional. She was the main person talking about medical subjects in ABC News for about a year. And she and I are planning something. You may know that I've begun to celebrate something called Future Day, which is March 1st. And so for Future Day in 2014, we're planning to do an Edmonton salon. Now, you probably know the Paris salon, all of Western thought, Western culture, I mean, literature, painting, music, poetry. A lot of it was advanced by Gertrude Stein and her, apartment in Paris, and her sister, I guess, and friend. And so the people who came to the parties there ended up being the people who really moved Western thought forward. And some of the discussion in this course gives you the idea that if you put it in a social setting and had more people, like more of the faculty, more of the students from different years involved, you'd really be accomplishing something. So we intend to test that. She's done things like this before, and so we're going to have an event on March 1st, 2014 at the Art Gallery downtown. I suppose it's like a normal party, except we're going to have video stations where if you talk to somebody and you come up with a really bright idea you want the rest of the world to know about, you go over to this video station and you report to the video station what you guys have just thought of, and so on. So it becomes a kind of self-identified recorded party. Pierre, I'm just going to go back a couple of slides so you don't miss this. Yeah, so that's the skateboard slide. You just happen to leave. So I felt sad that the skateboard guy was leaving when I was showing the skateboard slide. And what I said is that I was so impressed seeing your board at that book review session that I went to. So anyway, we're going to start planning this year, and when Julie Lin teaches in this course, she teaches at the end of October on a Tuesday and Thursday, and on the Wednesday of that week, we're going to go to the art gallery, talk to people there about how we could really make this successful. Do I really think that Edmonton party conversations could move civilization forward like those in Paris 100 years ago? Well, why not? I don't know. It's at least worth a try, and we're going to see what we can do. So this is Marcus Hutter, this is his recent work called Can Intelligence Explode, that describes exactly what he thinks the singularity will be like. The other AI researchers tell me that Marcus Hutter is an outsider, that he's not part of the AI researcher in group. But I don't know whether that's good or bad. It's an interesting thing to sort of, so we've had a rather fascinating kind of conflicted interaction with this guy who may be really one of the thought leaders, but is on a whole different wavelength from the other AI researchers that you will have contact with in this course. How are we doing disseminating these ideas, and what is the challenge? Well, as you know, I've written a paper about this. That paper got accepted quite quickly as kind of amusing that Earl Waugh, who you'll meet soon, believed that it's completely unfair that that paper got accepted so quickly because it wasn't really graded all that high. It's as if, the editor thought that we're changing the world little by little with this stuff, and so she accepted it even though the reviews weren't that positive. But we're still not having very big impact. How many people could we reach with the messages here? So if you look at the NOVA program on PBS, that reaches 7 million viewers. I don't know if that figure impresses you or whether that's even a familiar program, but something that would be familiar to all of you is the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory talks about all the same subjects as NOVA, but it's comedy. Never does it discuss anything seriously. And it reaches 20 million viewers. So that's sort of the size of the target audience that you would think might conceivably be interested in the subject matter of this course. The biggest meeting about this stuff, the Singularity Summit, those videos reach about 9,000 people, and the conferences themselves are about 1,000. And our own videos from this course reach about 1,700. So I think we have a lot to do. If any of you have ideas about how we could disseminate these concepts further and more quickly and efficiently, I would be very interested in that. I've already talked about this. People talk about unfriendly AI. I'm not really sure that is the challenge for the future. Like when you saw that grasshopper or ant on the way here, it wasn't a matter of whether you were friendly or unfriendly. You just didn't care, right? I mean, that's almost worse. If some powerful being in the world just doesn't care about you at all, it's almost worse than if they don't like you for some specific reason. So Marcus Hutter conjures up this idea that the technological singularity viewed from the outside, if you're not within it, if you're not experiencing it, but looking at it from the outside, it'll be white noise. It will be such a chaotic, turbulent activity that's what it will be like. It will be white noise. And inside, you may not notice anything because everything's speeded up at the same rate. So if you're part of it, it may just seem like normal life. But eventually, even if initially our biological brains count for something and our mental processes, very soon the processing power of the machine implants or the machines that we're collaborating with or merging with will vastly outstrip our own brains, and so our brains will become insignificant regardless of the friendliness or lack thereof of the AI. So we'll be kind of stuck in a dysphoric eternal youth caricature of what it's like to be young, with extreme risk-taking. I've talked about these things: insignificance, lack of identity. We can replicate ourselves endlessly in seconds, no more waiting 9 months. I mean, you can make as many of yourself as you want, presumably, whatever society allows. And the world will have little incentive to keep identities straight when biological brains contribute so little to mental processes. Bigger is not better. So there'll be aimlessness, lack of sense of purpose. So the challenge then of producing friendly AI becomes just a small part of the much larger challenge of creating a friendly world in which humans still have lives of significance and human history is retained and extended. A positive outcome is possible, and I think the main aim of this course really is to increase the likelihood that things will turn out okay for the human race. So let's make it likely that a positive outcome will occur. You know, nothing's set. Even if you believe in a deterministic world, there's still indeterminate things in a deterministic world. And if you believe in free will, then it's completely open that we could really shape the future ourselves. The beginning step is the belief that you can do that you can influence this future, and almost certainly we can do that. So we need a simpler approach to engage the general public on these matters. If we make it seem too complicated, we're not going to get anywhere. So this course is a starting attempt at achieving that. And it's not only simplicity, but also the idea of presenting many scenarios, so not just one point of view, but many points of view, in both technology skepticism and technology advocacy, and everything in between. And if this course is any darn good at all, I mean, if we're really doing anything that matters, then you should see shifts. You should see people who begin as advocates who turn out skeptics and vice versa. And we've already seen that. I mean, if you look Jonathan White's most recent video and his first one, it's dramatic. If you look at Earl Waugh, who began as our main skeptic, if you look at my email inbox, every day I get excited emails from him about new technology stuff. So he's really become fascinated by these things that he was very skeptical about when the course began. And similar changes can occur in all of you. So it's not absolutely certain what the outcome here will be. A year ago, the structure of singularitarian enterprises out there became a lot simpler because the Singularity University became a beneficial for-profit enterprise. So they're trying to do good things in the world, but also make a profit. And they decided the way to do that is to buy up most of the other singularitarian enterprises out there. So they bought up Singularity Hub and Singularity Summit and a bunch of other things. So this course is almost the only independent entity out there that they don't own. So I'm kind of proud of that. Many of you know about Foxconn. You all carry in your pockets things produced in the Foxconn factory in China. So if you have an iPhone, an iPad, any of those devices, I think of either Apple or Samsung, it was made in Foxconn. And Foxconn decided in November 2012 to replace 1 million workers with 1 million robots. And they've already started to do that. They've replaced 100,000. And the robots are really cool. They do all sorts of amazing things. And there were suicides and a lot of complaints by the workers before. These robots don't do that. They don't complain. They work around the clock. There are no suicides amongst the robots. So it's very interesting to contemplate that. It would be one thing if machines were replacing human workers in some sector of human endeavor that has nothing to do with you, but very likely what Foxconn makes has a lot to do with you. You're regularly purchasing products made in those factories and now made by machines rather than people. Similarly, in medicine, you can think of a terrible world where we eliminated all diseases, but things are still completely unsatisfactory. We could eliminate all human disease and have a world where we're completely insignificant, or where there are even more new diseases than the old ones, and they're all bioterrorism. They're all made to have no treatment except in the hands of the military force that's trying to wipe out other people using these diseases. So these terrible outcomes don't have to happen, and part of what I'd like to do in the course is to get you enthusiastic about helping the utopian outcomes happen and make the really horrendous, awful ones unlikely. So 2045 is only 32 to 33 years from now. You'll all be alive and active at that time. Even if you don't think you will, you probably will. If we get rid of most diseases, then your natural lifespan will be 140 years. That's the Hayflick limit, where cells no longer divide, and that will be the thing that stops you in your tracks, at least for a while. Now, what's that like? Are we talking about the wrinkled prune version of the future where you get looking older and older and older? No. Presumably, it wouldn't be like that at all. Let me just skip ahead here. We should be able to actually reverse aging. So it's not just a matter of keeping alive as you become uglier and uglier and more old looking, and just not dying when you look incredibly unpleasant. But presumably it would be being able to retain or regain youthful characteristics with age. So we need to consider the possibility of a post-scarcity world, what medicine would look like in such a singularity utopia. You probably know about Moore's law, where this idea of accelerating change, exponential change, it's probably different in medicine. Medicine is more regulated. It's sort of slowed down for a lot of reasons. The regulatory oversight completely focused on compliance that discourages risk-taking and innovation. Doesn't have the same financial rewards. So in a sense, when we talk about exponential change in medicine, it's probably different and on a different time course from that in the rest of society. It may amuse you if you know about medical apps, and if you're in medicine and you're not using them, then you're not alone. Most people are not using medical apps. There seems to be a complete disconnect between the companies making medical apps and the people who would actually use them, so that you can be rewarded for making a really cool medical app that everybody who tests it says, yeah, wow, this is really cool. But actually none of the people in medicine end up using it. And right now most people in the medical field are not using very many medical apps. I use only Surgery 101, which is Jonathan White's app. It's a very simple app. It happens to contain his lectures from the course, so I sort of like it. And I would be happy to use others if they serve some purpose in my life, but I just, I know about them. I could tell you about hundreds and hundreds of medical apps. I'm just not using them. So you may know that in my regular day job, I'm a pathologist. I use a microscope. I look at very tiny things and make the images of them big. We need to do the opposite in this course. We need to look at the world out there, the great big world, and try to make sense of it. Try to figure out what the future will really be and how it will affect both us and the rest of the human race. So I would welcome your suggestions on how to capture the imagination of the public to start everybody thinking about these matters. And now we have 12 minutes for questions, and I'd be happy to answer. And I hope that there are some. I've tried to be as clear as I could, but this is the first time I've ever described the nuts and bolts of the course. I always thought it was so simple that you didn't need to talk about it, and I think I was probably wrong about that. So since it's the first time that I've ever described it, I may not have done it very well. Is it clear to you? Do you have questions? So I should establish the rules. You can go to the aisles and use the microphone, or we can bring the microphone to you, but to ask a question, you need to use the microphone. Okay, and we can also use, so this is Ranja Lu and Preeti Kadikat, and they're two of the three student volunteers for this course. The other is Adithi Raghavir, who is the sister of one of the previous coordinators of the course. So anyway, yeah. So do any of you have questions? Jason, so bring a microphone to Jason. Okay, yeah. Turn it on, so the light glows. Yeah, there you go. Yes?
I was wondering if you would be providing the introductions to the mentors for us, or if we have to take care of that ourselves.
What? Am I providing the introductions to mentors? Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. One of the hidden truths about the course is some of the excellent teachers get busy and don't enjoy the idea of being mentors. So you may find, yeah, I mean, I'll provide you with people's email addresses. It's a bit unpredictable to me. Some of them really like being mentors and are very pleased to have been mentors. Others just like to teach in the course and not very keen on being mentors. So when that happens, when you're rejected, you know, you always hate that, but when the person just doesn't reply or something, then I can help you find somebody else, or you can use me as your mentor. It doesn't have to be somebody other than me. It gets kind of boring if you're all using me, because, you know, I'm a fairly boring guy, and, you know, you can find many cooler people to work with. So particularly the people teaching in this course, we really have the best and the brightest from across the campus. So I cannot guarantee you that the lecturer that you like the very most, when approached, will say yes to being your mentor, but it also depends upon what you need. If you indicate that you don't really need much, that, you know, you don't need a lot of time for this person, then maybe it's more likely. Yeah, so I know that's not a completely satisfactory answer, but it's true. I think maybe truth is better than, you know, something that's entirely satisfying to listen to. So yeah, some of our best lecturers, when they were done lecturing, sort of figured, well, that's it. And then when a student writes to them and says, would you like to be my mentor? I think they sort of go delete, delete. So I was surprised at that at first, but I guess it's just real life. So on the other hand, for instance, I can tell you that some of the people teaching in the course really, you know, appreciate being used as mentors. Heather Graves has been mentor to many people and you know, enjoys it. So yeah, I don't know. It's just one of these, you don't want everything to be completely made easy for you. You need some challenges in life, and this is one of them. I would imagine if you write to the Dean of Science and say, I want you to be my mentor in the class, that would be an interesting thing. He's a very busy guy in the midst of a very financially turbulent time here at the U. On the other hand, he's very strongly in favor of this course. So I guess it depends upon how boring and needy he thinks that you might be. If you seem very boring and needy, he'd probably say no. If it looks like you don't need much help and you'd sort of be cool to interact with, then Jonathan Schaefer might say yes. I don't know. That's just sort of my judgment on it. So, and if by default I end up as the mentor for every single one of you, that's just fine. But I don't think that that's what will happen. Earl Waugh also enjoys being a mentor, particularly for students who are looking to surprise me in some ways. So we had a student last term who gave a presentation that the subject matter of which was almost identical to a presentation that I routinely give to the class. But he did it with better graphics. It was at a better level for the students. And I was just amazed for somebody would have the courage to do that. But it came across very well. And I learned from it too. Because when I listened to it first, I thought, well, you know, he's not gotten this and that. In other words, it wasn't quite as good as what I would have done. But yeah, so what? It's a student versus me, right? But then when I realized that this guy's YouTube video was getting lots and lots of hits and positive, you know, comments, and I realized that for a student, not only is that a really excellent presentation, but it's a really brave thing to do, to pick a topic that's exactly the same as what the prof teaches and sort of give it back to him. So the person who mentored him was Earl Waugh, and they sort of worked it out together. Can I really do this? Yes, I think you can. So I think there are many things that are probably not possible in a regular course that are possible here. One is criticizing the past lecture. I mean, don't just go in and say that the lecture you're critiquing is wonderful, because that's not going to be valuable for us. You see, the people teaching in this course are from all different faculties and walks of life and so on. We're not, you know, competing with each other. If we were all from the same faculty or the same department, if we all did the same thing, then if a student criticizes one person's lecture, that person's status is brought down. Yeah, but that doesn't happen at all here, because the people teaching you in this course are so heterogeneous that if a student criticizes the past lecture of one of us, it has no influence whatsoever on the well-being of the remaining faculty or their status. Yes, so you want to bring the microphone down here? Yes.
So I have two questions. The first question is for the final paper topic. We have to tell you the exact title or just the topic.
Sorry, I didn't get that. What?
So for the topic, I just tell you the topic, such as the AI or nanomedicine, or I tell you the exact topic.
It's better if you have a precise, it's better if you have a precise, exact topic, and if the title's sort of fun, and you know, I mean that's part of it, to kind of enjoy coming up with the title. So rather than just, you know, artificial intelligence, it would be, you know, in some particular area or some particular slant on it, or something that interests you, some specific thing that interests you that is within the areas of this course. So I suppose if you send me the topic before you start working with the mentor, and then if you and the mentor decide to change it a little bit, that's fine. You're not stuck with exactly what you told me. You can modify it to some extent. But yeah, so I need to know in as much detail as you can tell me what it's going to be. But that doesn't mean that you cannot subsequently change it.
Yes, so does the mentor need to sign some form? Do they need to sign form to be a mentor?
No, there's no formal legally binding, agreement. No, the only legally binding thing is for the use of your image on videos in this course. So the mentoring, it's a completely informal thing. You just talk to the person, talk to me, let me know. There isn't any form. It's just that I want to make sure each of you has a mentor, because out of the 14 students last time, the 2 at the very bottom that got the worst grades really didn't pick a mentor. They not only picked inappropriate subjects and not only gave very boring presentations that put Angus and me to sleep, but they also didn't have a faculty mentor. So we want to make sure that each of you has one. But it is not a rigid, formalized legal process. It's an informal.
So can we sign 2 mentors?
Yeah, there can be more than one.
More than one, right?
Yeah,
Because our
yeah.
group may be interdisciplinary.
Yeah, you could ask for help from several different people. Sure. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? We've got 2 minutes.
It's quick.
Yeah.
Okay, am I talking too loud in this?
No.
Or is it, that's perfect? Okay.
Yeah.
I tried to access the course website, and I think that there was, I don't know if have the slides been posted. Are they going to be posted before each class?
So I sent you the slides.
Oh, I think, yeah.
This PowerPoint was sent to you in an email around noon today.
Oh, okay, so I haven't checked my email then. That's probably
It
wrong.
will vary. Often what we put on the course website is the video. It seems sort of redundant to do both. So usually, you'll get tired of so many emails from me. There really are, no, not another email from Dr. Solez. But anyway, so I'm sending you many emails, and usually the PowerPoint, at least when I am the lecturer, the PowerPoint will also come with those. Some of the other lecturers don't like to send the students their PowerPoint because they want that element of surprise, and so the person who must get the PowerPoint for every single lecture is Angus, because when he produces the video, it's not done from these light struck images, which would be terrible, right? Like that video of the song. You can imagine how much better it's going to be on the video than it was because we've got light, pollution here on the screen. So Angus will have the PowerPoint for every single one, but sometimes the lecturer just wants you to have the video rather than having the PowerPoint. I don't really know why. It's different sort of philosophy. So there are 2 things that I've not been able to manage. One is to get everybody to use the same PowerPoint template. It'd be great to have one template for the whole course and standards for graphics and all that sort of thing, but we don't do that. So every lecturer has a different template. And I can't get them all to send them to you beforehand, but the ones that are willing will do that.
Okay,
And-
no, that's fine. I think I'm just used to other classes. You go in and then there's always the PowerPoint and you do your notes, but this is probably a very different class, obviously, so that's fine.
This is a very different class in a lot of ways. I'm kind of proud of that, but if it's in any unsatisfactory way for you, just let me know. Really, anything, we're out here to fine-tune this, to make this course work for all of you. And so anything we can do to make it better. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'll see you next Tuesday. So the thing about clapping is there isn't clapping in a regular undergrad course, but for the first year, we always had momentous clapping, because most of the people in the room weren't, they were used to hospital rounds where you always clap. So it's sort of fun for me whether you guys clap or not, or whether you seem conflicted about clapping and so on. It's all good.